Have you ever heard of a man who tried to build a nation without land? A man who saw a scattered people separated by oceans, separated by borders, and told them they were one. This is the story of Marcus Garvey. He was a man with a vision so big, so bold it inspired millions, and it made him a target for powerful governments. He wasn't a king, he wasn't a president, he was a printer. From a small Jamaican town, but his words traveled the globe. He spoke of pride while the world taught shame. He spoke of unity while the world encouraged division. He was a dreamer, a century ahead of his time whose ideas are debated, celebrated, and feared today. Garvey's story is not simple. It's a hero's journey, triumphs and failures. We will follow his arc. Beginnings, powerful rise, dramatic fall, and the legacy that outlived him. Who could fill Madison Square Garden with thousands in 1920? How did he build one of the largest black-led movements in history? He created the Black Star Line, a shipping line to connect black people worldwide. He published newspapers that spread self-reliance from Harlem to Honduras. He organized grand parades, streets filled with symbols of black power and dignity. But this is also about a man with human flaws. His grand ambitions sometimes outpaced his practical plans. His powerful personality clashed with other leaders. He faced enemies who saw his movement as a threat to the established order. They used his mistakes against him, leading to a trial, a prison sentence, and exile. So, we must ask the tough questions. Was he a brilliant visionary or a flawed showman? Was he a prophet of black liberation or a leader whose dreams were too big to handle? The answers are as complex as the man himself. To understand Marcus Garvey, we must understand his world. Born in colonial Jamaica in 1887, where the legacy of slavery was everywhere. The British Empire ruled, and people of color were held down. He grew up seeing injustice firsthand. He later moved to the United States in the early 20th century, a time of brutal racism, lynchings, and segregation. This was the world that shaped him, a world that told black people they were less than. Marcus Garvey decided to build a new world, brick by brick, with hope, pride, and organization. This is the backdrop for his incredible story. Marcus Garvey's central idea was simple, yet revolutionary for its time. He believed that black people, everywhere, should be proud of their race and their heritage. He argued that they should not wait for others to give them freedom or respect. They had to build it for themselves. This was the core of his philosophy. Economic independence, political power, cultural unity for all people of African descent. He called this Pan-Africanism. It was a blueprint for a global community, a spiritual empire of black people united in a common cause. He told his followers to look to Africa not as a place they were taken from, but as a glorious ancestral homeland they could one day reclaim. To make this blueprint a reality, he founded the Universal Negro Improvement Association, or UNIA. Imagine an organization that was part social club, part political movement, part international business. The UNIA had chapters in more than 40 countries. It was a place where black people could come together, organize, and feel a sense of belonging. They had their own flag, red, black, green, symbolizing the blood, the people, and the rich land of Africa. They had their own anthem. They had their own leaders. For millions, the UNIA was more than an organization. It was a promise of a different future, a world where they were the masters of their own destiny. Garvey wasn't just a talker, he was a builder. He knew that political power grew from economic strength. That's why he launched businesses. The most famous was the Black Star Line, a steamship company meant to be owned and operated by black people. The idea was to facilitate trade and transport among black communities around the world, and, eventually, to help people return to Africa. People bought shares for $5 each. It was a powerful symbol of self-sufficiency. Even though the company ultimately failed due to mismanagement and sabotage, the dream it represented captured the imagination of millions. It was proof that black people could think big. So why does Marcus Garvey still matter today, 100 years later? His story is a powerful lesson in leadership, community, and the enduring struggle for justice. His ideas about Black pride and self-determination echoed through the decades, influencing leaders: Martin Luther King Jr.'s father, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela. The questions he raised about identity, power, and belonging. Identity, power, belonging are still the questions we grapple with now. His life shows us the incredible power of a single, unifying idea. It also serves as a cautionary tale about the challenges of leadership and the forces that resist change. He left behind a blueprint that continues to inspire and challenge us to this day. Marcus Mosiah Garvey was born on August 17, 1887. He came into a world that had already decided his place. St. Anne's Bay, a coastal town in Jamaica. British colony, Jamaica in the late 19th century. Slavery chains recently broken. But the mindset remained. Power and wealth with white plantation owners and colonial officials. Black majority kept at the bottom. Father, Marcus, a stonemason. Mother, Sarah Jane Richards, a domestic worker. Not wealthy, proud. They taught him reading. They taught him self-respect. Father's large personal library, unusual. Young Marcus reading for hours. Voracious reader. Learned about history, learned about law, learned about great leaders. Books opened his mind beyond Jamaica. Father, stern, intelligent, stubborn. Garvey inherited stubbornness. He inherited a deep sense of justice. Left school at 14. Became a printer's apprentice. Turning point. Learned the power of the printed word. Saw how newspapers and pamphlets could shape public opinion. Learned to set type. Learned to operate machinery, learned to craft a catching sentence. The trade became a weapon. He mastered a tool to reach millions, no longer just a small-town boy, finding a voice. Childhood friendship with ministers' children, friends at play. As they aged, a wall went up. Girl sent to school in Scotland, told she could no longer associate with him because he was black. He later wrote about this. Brutal, personal introduction to the color line. Not just laws, not just economics. It was personal. Heartbreak that revealed a global racial system. By the time he was a young man, Garvey knew he had to see the world. He needed to know if the injustice at home was the same everywhere. In 1910, he left for Central America. He followed the path many Caribbean laborers took, seeking work on massive plantations. Building huge construction projects. He found work as a timekeeper on a Costa Rica banana plantation. There, he saw the plight of black workers on a much larger scale. He saw men from Jamaica. He saw men from Barbados. He saw men from other islands, all toiling under brutal conditions for very little pay. Garvey was outraged. He would not stand by and watch. He started a small paper, La Nacional, to protest. He tried to organize workers to stand up for their rights. He quickly ran into a wall of indifference. The local British consul did nothing to help. That was a critical lesson. The colonial system would not protect its black subjects. It protected empire and capital, not people. From Costa Rica, Garvey continued his travels. Panama, Ecuador, Colombia, Venezuela. Everywhere the story was the same. Under British rule, under Spanish rule, under American rule, black people were at the bottom of the ladder, doing the hardest work for the least pay, divided and powerless. These travels were his university. He saw the global nature of black oppression. It wasn't just a Jamaican problem. It was worldwide. This realization became the foundation of his philosophy. The problem was global, so the solution must be global too. He set his sights on the heart of the empire itself, London. He arrived in 1912, hoping to understand the system that held so much power over the lives of people back home. Garvey continued his education, not at a university, but in libraries, public parks, meeting halls where radical ideas were debated. In London, he met Dusay Muhammad Ali. Ali's journal, The African Times and Orient Review, a Pan-African and Pan-Asian voice that pushed self-determination and challenged colonial rule. Garvey began writing for the journal. Ali became his mentor. He learned about Africa's past, a different story than colonial schooling told. He discovered great African empires, Ghana, Mali, Songhai. He learned of glorious histories, complex societies, rich cultures that existed long before Europeans arrived. This knowledge transformed him and offered a counter-narrative to British racist ideology. With history in his head and purpose in his heart, Garvey boarded a ship back to Jamaica in summer 1914. He now had a mission. When Marcus Garvey returned to Jamaica on July 15, 1914, he was a man with a plan. He didn't waste any time. Just 5 days after arriving back on the island, he and a few associates, including his future wife Amy Ashwood, founded a new organization. Its simple, powerful motto was, "One God, one aim, one destiny." The initial mission of the UNIA in Jamaica was focused on education and uplift. It was a bold vision, but it struggled to gain traction in Jamaica at first. Garvey quickly realized that to make his vision a reality, he needed to go to America. In 1916, Garvey made the momentous decision to leave Jamaica again, this time for the United States. Garvey, with his powerful Jamaican accent and his grand pronouncements, was at first just another street corner orator among many. He adapted what worked abroad for an American audience and refined his message. The turning point came in 1917. He established the New York division of the UNIA. The convention opened with a spectacular parade through the streets of Harlem. Inside Liberty Hall, delegates spent weeks deliberating. Garvey was elected provisional president of Africa. Marcus Garvey's success was his biggest problem. Garvey made a lot of enemies. The most dangerous enemy was the U.S. government. Hoover became obsessed. In 1922, federal agents arrested Marcus Garvey. The charge was mail fraud. The judge sentenced him to the maximum penalty, 5 years in a federal prison. Marcus Garvey on the deck of a ship in 1927, looking back towards the shore as he is deported. The final years of his life were marked by struggle and a sense of isolation, but they could not silence the idea. Garvey's true legacy is not in the things he built with his hands. You can draw a straight line from Garvey's ideas to many key black liberation movements of the 20th century. Rastafarianism grew from one of Garvey's prophecies. We should talk about him because the questions he asked are still the questions we are wrestling with today. His ships sank. His businesses crumbled. He was imprisoned and exiled, but the dream survived. Marcus Garvey's legacy. Black is beautiful. Black is strong. Black is a nation unto itself.